Akai 1710W tape recorder from back in the late 1960s. And the problem is this unit actually is working. I overhauled this thing a while back, put new belts and stuff in it, but what I couldn't get at the time was I couldn't get a pinch roller. I did happen to have another Akai reel-to-reel machine, which I robbed the pinch roller off to put on this one just because I like the sound of this one. I'd kind of like to get my other deck working as well, so I want to put the original pinch roller back on here. But as you can see, if we look at this pinch roller, it's in pretty sad shape. That is awful. It's all hard and it's cracked. I don't know if we're going to be able to save the patient. What I'm going to try is I'm going to try this product made by MG Chemicals called Rubber Renew. And we're going to see whether this stuff is going to fix this pinch roller. But there's a whole list of safety precautions that we have to do if we're going to use this stuff. Because this stuff is pretty dangerous stuff. So it contains xylene, ethylbenzene, and methyl salicate. Now methyl salicate, that's the same stuff that's in topical heating creams such as Bengay, I guess, and Rub A535 that makes your skin get hot. That's basically menthol oil, right? But these chemicals can be hazardous, and as you can read here, may be fatal if swallowed or enters the airways, suspected of causing cancer, causes severe eye irritation, skin irritation, flammable liquid and vapor, toxic to aquatic life. Obtain special instructions before use. Do not handle until all safety precautions have been read and understood. Keep away from heat, sparks, open flame, hot surfaces, no smoking. Keep container tightly closed. Use only non-sparking tools, etc., etc. Use only explosion-proof electrical ventilating lighting equipment. Take precautionary measures against static discharge. Avoid breathing vapors, spray, mist. Use only outdoors or in well-ventilated areas. Wash hands thoroughly after handling. Wear protective gloves. Eye protection, face protection. Store in a well-ventilated area. Keep cool. Store locked up. Avoid release in the environment. Dispose of accordingly with all local, regional, national. So this stuff here is, this stuff's bad stuff. Okay, you can see here. For years we used to use this thing. When I was in the repair business, we used to use this stuff. And I'm surprised I'm still alive because we had no ventilation. We were working in a shop that the owner of the shop was more concerned about how his storefront looked to his paying customers that were buying stuff. He could care less about us that were kept cooped up in the back, and we had a very small shop with a door that he kept closed, and we had no ventilation. And we were told we had to use chemicals to work on stuff. And this stuff was used years ago. But back then we didn't have all the material safety data that's on this stuff now. I mean, back in the old days, I don't think there was any warnings on it. But thankfully now we've got these warnings so we can take the required precautions before we deal with this stuff. So precautions I'm going to use here: gloves. I'm going to use a rag to apply this stuff, and I'm working in an open workspace. I've got a door on both sides so air can flow freely through here, so I'm essentially outdoors. So let's get the safety equipment on, and we'll see whether this pinch roller can be brought back to life. So first we'll open the top, and we'll find that there's actually a safety seal on the top. This must be pretty bad stuff if they have to double seal it. We'll open up the foil seal. And we're just going to apply it to a piece of a rag. And I only took a small piece off because I don't want to soak so much stuff into this thing that I'm going to have fumes all over the place. So we'll wet the rag, and then we'll just use this and apply it to the rubber surface and see whether it will soften this up at all, as they claim it will. These are nitrile gloves that I'm wearing, so they're not affected by chemicals that would normally attack rubber. You can work with solvents and stuff. That's what these gloves are designed for. We're going to let this soak into this thing and see if it will restore the roller to a usable state. It's cleaning something off it. It's getting the rag is getting dirty. See, normally what I use when I'm working on a rubber roller, or I've got a belt that's slipping a bit, I'll use good old rosin flux, because it has a solvent in that and it will soften up the rubber, and the rosin will stick to the surface. And that's fine if you just need to, make a drive tire that's driving a tape pulley or something, right? But that will never work on something like a pinch roller, because it leaves a sticky residue behind, and well, that would kind of cause the tape to wind around the pinch roller. So this stuff, when it dries, it shouldn't have any residue at all. It should just soften this up, and it appears that it is. The surface is nowhere near as cracked as it was before, and I'm going to keep applying this here and see whether we can get all these cracks to fill in, because it is softening the surface. I can feel it. So I'm going to work on this for a bit here and pick the video up once I'm satisfied that it's ready. Well, after repeated wiping on this thing, it's certainly feeling a lot softer than it was, and this stuff actually got through my gloves. I had to put a new pair of gloves on because I noticed a tear. So I don't know whether I tore the glove with a fingernail or something, but I noticed a tear in one of my gloves, so I had to change my gloves to continue on here. But I'm going to put this thing on this tape recorder and give it a try and see if it works. So I've remounted this old hacked up pinch roller on here, and we'll see whether it works. does. Let's just see what type of tension we've got on here. Oh, look at that. It's actually got quite a bit of grip. Like I'm having to really put quite a bit of pressure on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this other same for this one, because this is the roller that I had salvaged off my other open reel machine. I'm going to do the same on this one and see if we can get this one in better shape too. Maybe I can get my other reel-to-reel down and we'll service it. It's a nice auto reverse reel-to-reel Akai. This is my classic one here because this has got the vacuum tube amp in it, and I really like this. This was my father's old machine that he got, and I think I've talked about this on the last video, but he got this as a gift from the captain of the NYK line on its maiden voyage to a port in Vancouver that my dad worked at. When it was the first time that that boat had sailed over, it was customary for the captain to give the longshoreman a gift, and my dad was a foreman, so he was basically the first one to go up the ship. When the ship docked, he was the first to walk up the gangplank and welcome the captain, and it was customary to take them a gift and exchange a gift. And I think my dad probably gave him a bottle of whiskey or something, and he just reached over into the cabin of the boat, you know, in the wheelhouse, and unplugged this thing and here, give it to him. Here, this is for you. So it's got a lot of sentimental value. That's why I keep this thing working. But hey, it looks like everything is back in ship shape. As you can see, this machine here is almost perfect. Everything works on this. The only thing that's missing is the headphone jack is missing, and that's because I robbed that for something else when I was probably about 10 years old. I needed a 1/4-inch phone plug, and I stole it off of this thing, but that's going to be going back on. I'm going to get a new 1/4-inch phone plug and put it on there so that this thing is back 100%. But anyway, that has this stuff actually works really good. I'm quite impressed. This punch roller is still all chopped, you know, all well, it looks kind of, you know, I mean, it looks like it's in bad shape, but it's now, well, you can see. All this time you were feeling I wonder how it is for the slower. You can pull this capstan off here and it'll do 1 7/8. That might slip though, because actually that's got pretty good grip on it. This machine, this is how they did 1 7/8. You pulled the capstan off and you stored it on this little post here. Right, there was a little holder to put the capstan adapter on. So it would do 1 7/8 in the low motor speed, and in a high motor speed it was 3 3/4. And it's got just about as much grip. Not quite as much, but hey, it's pulling it through okay. I never use 1 7/8 anyway. I use 7.5 and 3 3/4. So I leave that on that. All this time you were feeling the same way. This is the lever for the auto stop. So how that works is normally the tape is threaded in behind here. It's just a switch on this. The tape is normally threaded in behind, and then this little automatic switch down here is turned on, and then when it's playing, if the tape were to break or the tape gets to the end, the bar drops down and it shuts off the power. That way, if a splice were to break, for example, as it's playing, you're not going to end up with the rest of the reel of tape all over the floor, which would happen and has happened on the auto stop mechanisms on a lot of the reel-to-reels. It was on the supply side of the capstan shaft. That's fine if your tape broke. As it, you know, if you had spliced the tape back in the reel-to-reel days, you'd actually cut the tape and splice it with some splicing tape on the back side of the tape. And if the splicing tape got brittle and the adhesive failed and the tape broke. Well, if it broke here, no problem. The little arm would drop down and the machine would go into stop, and you wouldn't have a tape reel spinning around forever. But if it broke on the other side of the pinch roller, the take-up spool would just keep spinning, and the capstan would just keep pulling the tape out and spilling the tape all over the floor. So this was actually quite a clever design to put it on the other side here. Now it has to warm up because it's a tube amplifier, and that basically turns the power off to the entire unit. Anyway, sounds like one of my tubes is getting a bit gassy too, doesn't it? That's to be expected. All the parts in here are original, never been changed. There we go. There's my old Akai 1710W back with the original pinch roller. And I was really lucky to find this head cover because it had been lost for years. And I just happened to be going through an old desk drawer, and I, just going through cleaning up junk, and I spotted this cover, and it's like, oh, there's the head cover for my 1710. So I had to go find a couple screws to put this thing in, get this thing back looking like new. The only thing it's missing now is there was a couple little metal flaps that would go onto the speakers and would direct the sound forward. And for whatever silly reason, when I was a kid and was playing with this thing, and I say I've had this thing since I was about 10 or so, maybe even a little bit younger. I was actually younger than that. I would have been probably only about 7, I guess, when my dad got this deck. And I pretty much commandeered it as soon as he brought the thing in the house. It's like, wow, reel-to-reel tape recorder, I gotta have that. So, yeah, it's, I wish I knew where the side pieces are, because then I could return this thing to 100% pristine factory. And I have no idea. I think the reason I took them off was because what they used to vibrate. If you're playing a lot of bass through the speakers, they would actually, you could hear them rattle. The hinges would rattle, so I took them off because of that. But now I like to put them back on just so that I can keep the thing original. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this. We're going to clean the other, maybe I'll show you clean this one too. We'll do this one at the same time and see how that one turns out. So one more time, get the safety gloves on. Get a piece of rag, wet it, recap the bottle, and we'll wipe this thing down. And this will take all the oxidization off of it. And unlike alcohol, it won't cause it to crack, because that's what I'm sure cracked this up, was that thing was being cleaned all the time with alcohol. And alcohol can be used to clean rubber parts, but it does dry them out. And if it's used repeatedly all the time, it will damage them over the long term. I'm going to go take this outside to a well-ventilated area to continue this. There we go. I'm going to let this dry for a bit here. I think it's freshened that up a bit. I'm going to go dig up my other reel-to-reel machine, and we'll set it up and just see how it performs. So this is my Akai GX260D. This is the first reel-to-reel that I bought personally myself. I saved up my money when I was a teenager for a long time to buy this one. I forget how much I paid for this thing, but it was probably close to $1,000. It was a lot of bucks. This is back when reel-to-reel tape recorders were still, the thing to have, because they're just the cool factor. I wanted to get one that had the larger 10-inch reels, but that was another big jump up in price, which I couldn't afford. So the moment of truth. We'll thread this tape up on here. Now the unique thing about this tape deck, this was the auto reverse one, and I haven't turned this thing on for ages, so I don't even know if it works. I think it needs a couple capacitors in the motors. Where's the power button on this thing? Somewhere on here there's a power button. Okay. Now if I tighten that up, it should go into play. Aha. That's why I haven't fixed this one. Okay, that's gonna be a project for another day. It's not engaging. The buttons aren't working. The only thing that's working is the reverse switch. It's reversing this relay here, or the solenoid for the direction. It's not going into play or fast forward. Capstan motor's turning, no problem there. This one's all solenoid controlled, so we'll have to take a look at that. Why it's not going into either forward, reverse, or fast forward or rewind. That'll be for another day.